I am a weak and cowardly man. Hi, my name is Haley Whipjack. You can call me Haley, you can call me Whipjack, you can call me Haley Whipjack, you can call me whatever you want as long as you're cool about it. And do you remember how I said I wasn't gonna talk about any more Ice Age? I folded hard, okay? I recently hit 2,000 subscribers on here. My channel is monetized now. And I'm gonna talk about Ice Age, okay? And you can't stop me. I already have a whole film-length breakdown of Ice Age 5 Collision Course 2016. Recommend you go check that out. Might give you a little bit more context for why I'm so angry at this movie. If you thought I was angry at Ice Age 5 Collision Course 2016, I have reached a new level. I've reached a new level of it here. I've gone back and forth quite a bit on how exactly I want to start this video, but I think I figured it out, so just hold on, okay? On April 13th, 2022, animators at Blue Sky Studios uploaded the very last thing that they had ever worked on as a studio. The studio closed in 2021 after being bought by Disney. This piece of animation was titled The End, and it showed Scrat, which was the company's mascot and also a recurring character in all of the Ice Age movies, finally getting the one thing he'd always wanted. The acorn that Scrat had spent 5 movies pursuing was in his hands, finally his, no longer needing to be chased, and he happily eats it and runs off screen. This clip went crazy on Twitter. People were acting so nostalgic for Ice Age. They were talking about their childhood. They were talking about how often they'd seen the movies. Everyone was saying how nice it was to finally see Scrat get what he wanted instead of going through horrific body horror slapstick routines. And I agree. I think it's a lovely little clip. And I'm really glad that the animators who love Scrat so much got to give him this like parting gift. Now, this was not the only Scrat-based content released into the world on April 13th, 2022. Also released that day was Scrat Tales, a series of shorts that was exclusively released on Disney+. And when I say shorts, I mean short. There are 6 episodes, and they're all around 4 minutes long. Scrat Tales is the very last thing ever worked on by Blue Sky Studios. It wasn't released until 2022, even though the studio was shut down, made defunct in 2021, because it was the last thing that they had in production. Scrat Tales, to me, functions as the end of the Ice Age franchise. It's their mascot, it's their one character who never changed, getting his own place in the limelight for a little bit, and then it's over. It's over. Ice Age is over. Blue Sky is defunct. They will never make any more Ice Age. The co-founder of Blue Sky Studios, the director of the first Ice Age movie, and the voice of Scrat, the one who makes all those little noises as the little rat, was done. Hands off. No more Glacier Mammoth movies. But didn't you know, you don't need the co-founder of the animation studio, the director of the first movie, the voice of the mascot of the series. You don't need him on your side to make a movie. You don't need Blue Sky Studios to even touch a movie to make it an Ice Age movie. You just need, what, like 1, 2 of the characters from the franchise? Ice Age 6, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, 2022, was released on January 28th, 2022 in North America. It was released later internationally and was not at any point touched by Blue Sky Studios. It was instead produced in its entirety by Walt Disney Pictures, of course, the people who ate Blue Sky Studios because they didn't need any more animation studios. They just, I guess, wanted to own Ice Age. What else does Blue Sky Studios have? Robots from 2005? The franchise potential. Ice Age 6, The Adventures of Buck Wild, 2022, is a bad movie. And no one would argue against me on that. It has a 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. Ice Age 5 Collision Course 2016 has an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, you know, they're like friends. There's a fundamental difference between the type of bad movie that Ice Age 5 Collision Course 2016 is versus Ice Age 6 The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild 2022. And here is the main distinction. Ice Age 5 Collision Course 2016 is a fun bad movie. Now, initially when I was watching it, I would not have called it a fun bad movie. I didn't have fun watching it alone in my living room, taking my notes in my notebook. I had a miserable time, actually. But the third time I watched it with a friend. And I got to inflict Ice Age 5 Collision Course 2016 on another human being. And that was fun. That's what makes it a fun bad movie. It's a fun bad movie when you're willing to watch it again with a new person just to watch them experience it. You know, I need to see what happens in their head when they watch this. I watched Ice Age 6, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild 2022 with another person the first time. And it was miserable the whole way around. The whole way around. I would not ask somebody else to watch it with me. It would not be worth watching it again to watch somebody else watch it. That's the kind of bad movie it is. I don't know if that distinction makes that much sense to you. It makes a world of difference to me. And I really feel like I need to explain Ice Age 6, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild 2022 before I can even explain the plot. I feel like I need to give you context, okay? My understanding of this movie is it was initially going to be a TV show for Disney+. And that's why it looks like that. Because TV show animation, especially this kind of like 3D animation, is not going to be movie quality. It's not. It just isn't. But somewhere along the line, they made it a movie anyway, and it still looks like that. Still just looks like that, doesn't it? I purchased a 7-piece set of Ice Age character figurines. I don't really remember why. I remember thinking, oh, I'm going to make another Ice Age video. Wouldn't it be cute if I had little figurines? Not really remembering. I don't have a place to put them. They couldn't be like displayed somewhere in here. I don't really have like a, you can't see them if they're down on the bottom of my whiteboard here. So I have them. And their faces are not good. Do you see the look in his eyes? Do you see him? They've massacred my boy. Like, they all just look like they have witnessed some kind of horror. It's the eyes. They all have these huge, round, just like bulging eyes. I don't understand that decision. Sid has hair. This is not a drill. They gave Sid weird little hair. That's not what Sid looks like. That's not what Sid looks like. And then, of course, our men of the hour, we're going to get very used to them. I hate how that looks. No, thank you. Where is he going? In short, these are all approximations of very well-loved characters from my childhood that I spent a lot of time thinking about very deeply for no reason. But they're not quite right. Something about them is, in fact, very wrong. And I just don't think we're going to get a better metaphor for Ice Age 6, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild 2022. Couldn't have made one better if I tried, really. And no, there aren't any of the female characters in this 7-piece set. They gave me Buck, but no Ellie. Why? No, I'm sorry. This was kind of a long wind-up, and there's going to be more tangents after we get started. Don't even worry. They definitely will be. But why don't we get started describing the plot and story of Ice Age 6, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild 2022. Disney Plus, as a streaming service, does that thing where when you're like hovering over a title, it shows you a trailer or footage from the movie. And so before I'd even clicked on it, before I'd even had to start watching it, I was seeing what it was going to look like. And it's so bad to look at. I kept thinking they looked kind of like clay models, like half-finished clay models of these characters. That's what it hit my brain as every time I saw one of those dumb possums. Like, I was just sitting through the very nice, pretty Disney intro with the castle with just mounting dread. Now, we've all seen at least one Ice Age movie, okay? We all know how Ice Age movies start. They open up with our little squirrel friend, Scrat, with his nut going off and doing some slapstick. Nope. There's no Scrat. There's no Scrat in this movie. Not just at the beginning. Not just, it's not a Scrat intro. There's no Scrat in this movie. Not a frame. The mascot of the Ice Age franchise, the mascot of Blue Sky Studios. He's not here. So how do we start the movie? I'll tell you how we start the movie. We start with Ellie. Ellie is leading us in some opening narration about the history of the herd. Now, the herd in these movies is what they call the main group. It's Manny, Diego, Sid, Ellie, Crash, Eddie, Peaches, Julian, Shira, Granny. They get a whole big herd by the end. In this herd history, for some reason, Ellie goes into the tragedy and the baggage of the original trio, the main three. I talk about this a lot in my Ice Age 5 video, but Manny, Diego, and Sid all come from bad situations. Manny's first wife and child died tragically. Sid's family abandoned him, hoping that he would freeze to death without migrating, and Diego's family were baby killers who didn't like him. I would have never treated you like that. And again, something I go into in my Ice Age 5 video is the fact that most of the movies fully gloss over those things. They're a major part of the first Ice Age movie where they're introduced, and the whole thing is the found family healing kind of theming, and then it's dropped. It's dropped. We don't talk about it anymore. Except for right here and right now. In the intro of Ice Age 6, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild 2022? Why? That is such a weird choice. In this intro that's all done in that cave painting style that we see in Ice Age sometimes, it's not the horrific clay models that they've got prancing around for us all movie. It's that kind of nice, very stylized thing going on. She also recaps Ice Age 1 and Ice Age 2. She mentions the dinosaur adventure that they went on, and that's it. That's it. Now, I don't know if you're much of an Ice Age historian, but the dinosaur adventure was Ice Age 3. There's been 5 movies before this one. And, like, things happened in Ice Ages 4 and 5. Like global kind of events that the herd was in charge of stopping happened in Ice Ages 4 and 5. But we stopped at 3? Weird choice, personally. No, another weird choice, personally, to me. In Ice Age 3, the one that she does go into in this recap, Ellie gives birth to her first and only child, Peaches. She does not mention Peaches in this history of the herd, the history of her family. Does not mention that she had a child. Weird. Why? This intro ends with Ellie telling us that the possums, Crash and Eddie, are getting reckless. So out of character for them. And then we're into the actual movie with the actual animation style. Yay! I was actually getting headaches during this movie, occasionally. Like, sometimes they would show me something on screen and my brain would shut off. It would shut down. It was terrible. And we open right away with the main characters of this movie. Crash and Eddie. Now, I desperately hope that you're thinking to yourself, I thought the main character was Buck, because his name's in the title. Why would he not be the main character of the movie with his name in the title? I don't know. But we spend the whole movie with them really trying to make me care about these two possums. These two possums, who, by the way, are sharing a character card because they're the same. They're the same. There's 2 of them. They've always been interchangeable. But even in this movie where they are literally the focus, there is absolutely zero effort to try and differentiate them and make them their own characters. Crash, Eddie. Nope. They are Crash and Eddie. They're Crash and Eddie. They are the same. Why? Why'd you do that? you had a whole movie about the two possums. You could have tried to make them different in some way, make them actual characters. No? It's not interesting to you? Okay, that's fine. Ellie, who is, of course, the older sibling, kind of motherly figure to these two, tells them not to do anything dangerous, but we're opening to their weird shenanigans, slapstick, whatever they're doing. The dialogue is paced really weirdly. Like, there's something... Nobody says things at the right time or the right speed. They start talking about how they want to move away from Ellie and get their own place, and then we cut to a montage of how cool their bachelor pad is going to be. It's weird. Ice Age has never been the kind of franchise with, like, cutaway gags. It was really jarring. They talk about possum freedom. Basically, they feel kind of oppressed by Ellie's presence in their life. And then they put a stick in the ground that makes the glacier they're on explode, which is the kind of thing that normally Scrat would do, but he's not here, I guess. And then we cut to the rest of the herd. So here's a fun fact about Ice Age 6, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild 2022. There is only one voice actor from the rest of the franchise that returned to this movie. One. And it was Simon Pegg, who came back to reprise his role as Buck Wild. Presumably, it's his movie. It's not. But presumably that's why they were like, we need Simon Pegg. He can't write Star Trek 4 or whatever. He's got to be here, voicing a really, really annoying weasel. It's the best use of his time. But so that means that none of the other characters have their original voice actors. And it's better for some than others. Honestly, I might not have even known that Queen Latifah didn't come back for Ellie if I hadn't already known it, right? Just listening to Ellie's opening narration, I recognize that as Ellie's voice. So whoever they got for her, doing a great job. She's doing a great Ellie, a great Queen Latifah. Love it. 9 out of 10. Now, I don't know what Ray Romano is doing with his time these days. I would have thought he's not very busy and could have spared them a couple hours to come in and voice Manny, but he couldn't. That's fine. He sounds mostly right. Manfred the Mammoth, mostly right. There's a few moments where they're leaning a little too hard into trying to sound like Ray Romano. I don't know if that makes any sense, but he's fine. We'll say he's fine. Now, Diego's voice is not that off. It's not that off. But I know him, okay? And that's not my baby girl. He's like really growly. It's Diego from all the other movies at his angriest, his meanest, his like most kind of masked. He's missing something. He's one tone of Diego, and that's not what he's like. I've actually had people tell me that they thought Diego was voiced by George Clooney in the other Ice Age movies, and I can kind of hear it, right? If I listen to like Ice Age 1 and 2, Dennis Leary's Diego, I'm like, that. If I didn't know that wasn't George Clooney, and someone was like, that's George Clooney, I would believe them. I'd believe him. It's very close. The guy doing Diego in Ice Age 6, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild 2022, is close to Dennis Leary's Diego, but you would never mistake him for George Clooney. Does that make sense? Is that anything? I know John Leguizamo is very busy these days being Bruno Encanto, whatever. He's a very successful man. He's a busy man. I'm proud of him. John Leguizamo, you're doing a great job. Please come back. How many people in your life can do a Sid the Sloth impression? I bet it's more than one. I bet it's more than 5. People with halfway decent Sid the Sloth impressions are not hard to find. And in fact, many of them will just show it off at random occasions. It's a fun voice, I assume. I can't do it. But I assume if you can do it, it's fun. It's probably fun to practice and get really good at. So why So why has there never been a voice that sounded less like Sid the Sloth than the one coming out of his mouth in this movie? I literally wrote in my notes just, oh my god, that isn't Sid. It's fully the wrong register. He's at a weird part in his throat, and he sounds so wet. His voice is so wet in a way that I don't need it to be. And I wish it wasn't. I'd love to give you my opinions on how close Crash and Eddie's voice sound to the original, but I don't actually really know what Crash and Eddie sounded like in the original. I never cared that much when they talked. They sound fine. To me, they sound like what my brain thinks Crash and Eddie should sound like, so I guess Josh Peck has found other work somewhere, and the other voice actor for the other one is doing well as well, I bet. I literally can't keep explaining the plot. I have to keep stopping to explain other things. I said we were going to the rest of the herd, and then I only put up Sid, Manny, Ellie, and Diego. That is because those are the only members of the herd in this movie. Here is a collection of characters that were part of the herd in literally the previous movie that are just not in this one. No explanation given. They're never mentioned. There's nothing. There's nothing. Shira, Diego's life partner, who he spent the entire last movie talking about how much they both wanted to have kids and be good parents. She is gone, mysteriously. Peaches, literally Manny and Ellie's daughter, Peaches, and her fiance, Julian, gone, not even mentioned. It would have been so easy to just be like, oh, they're off on their honeymoon. They're gone, they're on their honeymoon, but they'll be back. We miss Peaches. No. She's just not there. Brooke, Sid's weird girlfriend. I don't miss her, but it's weird that she was gone. Granny, I think, has an excuse. I'm pretty sure she was off being sexy and young again somewhere in a fountain where we left her, so that's fine. I just wanted her on the board. Okay, I think I can go back to talking about the plot. All right. So the possums talk about how they want possum freedom and their cool bachelor pad, and they make a glacier explode, and then whoop, we go back to the rest of the herd. That's where I left us off, yeah? Sid is talking in his very new bad voice about who cares, and Manny and Diego have pine cones in their ears to block him out, and me too, babe. Me too. It turns out that by exploding that glacier, the possums destroyed their summer habitat that they spent all spring working on, which is weird because it was made of about 3 umbrellas. So I think maybe they could just put the umbrellas back up, but it's all broken, all destroyed. Oh, those possums. The herd tells Crash and Eddie that the possums would never survive without them. They can't clean themselves. They can't feed themselves. They can't do anything. They're reckless. They get in danger. Manny does want them to leave. Like this whole conversation, he very clearly wants them gone. They're his brothers-in-law. And while the herd is telling them all the things that they can't do, Crash and Eddie are like, but here's what we can do. And then they beatbox. It's not really related to the survival skills they were talking about, but I'm very proud of you boys. Good job. Ellie looks at them and says that sometimes she wishes they were more mammoth, less possum. And they don't take that well, which is fair. That's a mean thing to say to somebody who's all possum. And they joke about peeing on stuff. They're so funny. My favorite part about the possums is that they're so funny to me. Manny apologizes to his wife for being mean to her brothers, and the whole time he's doing that, his legs are moving just wrong enough. Just wrong enough. Like the joints at the ankles aren't right, and he looks a little rubbery. It made me a little nauseous watching him walk in this scene, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm sensitive, I know that, but it was wrong. All right? It was wrong. We are 10 minutes into the movie at this point. It is an 80-minute movie. They didn't even hit 90 minutes. They couldn't have released it in theaters, I don't think, if they wanted to. It's an 80-minute movie. We are an eighth of the way into the movie. Manny does get off a good line, actually. He says that the herd is weirdos and loners, and that's just on my side. That's cute. I like that. And then he tries to convince Ellie to let the possums try to live on their own, which she obviously doesn't want to do. They have no survival skills. And then Ellie has a flashback to when she was a child, growing up with Crash and Eddie and Possum Mom. Baby Ellie is so cute. And Baby Crash and Eddie are also pretty cute, except they laugh like grown men. The babies have the same voice actors as the grown-ups, and they don't say words, they just laugh, but they laugh like grown men. They didn't have to do that. In this flashback, we see Mama Possum's funeral? And then Ellie has become head possum of the family. This is probably really confusing to hear, looking at Ellie, me calling her head possum. She grew up thinking she was a possum because she grew up with just possums. But now she knows she's a mammoth. Anyway, Ellie's mad. She basically makes Manny in his way too smooth trunks sleep on the couch. Good for her. It's nighttime. The herd is asleep. Crash and Eddie sneak off. They're leaving. They're setting out on their own. Good idea, boys. They stop to say goodbye to a sleeping Ellie while some very nice, soft, very sad music plays. This was not sad to me. Music like that is usually, I'm very manipulatable with music like that. It was simply not sad to me. I was not sad for these possums who were foolishly running away from the only people who keep them safe. In the morning, the rest of the herd wakes up and Ellie goes, "Did you hear that?" And everyone else is like, "Hear what?" She's like, "Yeah, it's so quiet. The idiots are gone." She doesn't call them the idiots, but they're gone. So then Manny, who wanted them gone so bad anyway this whole time, is like, "Oh, they'll be fine. Let them go off on their own. Don't worry about it. What's the worst that could happen? They'll die and never come back." That would be tragic. That would be so sad. But Ellie's not having it. She sets off on their path while Sid lists all the talents the possums don't have, which is really mean because Ellie's right there. The possums are off on their own. They're so bad to look at. I'm having a terrible time watching them ambulate throughout the world, and then they fall into a hole and realize that they could head for the Lost World. The Lost World is, of course, Dino World, where we went in the third movie and met all the dinosaurs, and is also where their role model, Buck Wild, lives. So that's where they're going. Apparently, I forgot the part where you enter the Lost World through a big dinosaur skull. I forgot about that. It's good imagery. This movie can't take credit for it. I'm sure it was in the third one, but it's good. That's fun. However, they are immediately pursued by dinosaurs. I kept writing chickeny guys or chicken dinosaurs in my notes. They're raptors. They're just raptors. I don't know why I thought they were chickens. They're pursued by these raptors and also Orson. We'll get to Orson in a bit. I can't start talking about Orson right now. I have to wait. One of the possums says, "I think I swallowed my Adam's apple," and that was so gross I had like a physical bodily response to it. Don't say that. We're in the Lost World. There's a genuinely nice, pretty, big landscape shot of the Lost World. I think it's hard to make a big landscape shot of dinosaurs uninteresting or bad. So, low bar, but a good visual. Because the possums are idiots with no survival skills, which nobody could have seen coming, they immediately are chased by a big spider and then saved by Buck Wild, who's riding a pterodactyl. Sure. Buck is here. The raptors that were chasing them also land on the pterodactyl, still in pursuit. Buck is quipping constantly, like "This is your captain speaking," kind of shit. Like, you're being chased in a lethal pursuit. Can we please? So they shake off the raptors. Fine, good, we're safe. And then Buck immediately, directly, with no fanfare, explains to the possums who Orson is, his entire backstory, what's going on. Like, it's just straightforward exposition. Out of literally nowhere. It takes about 15 seconds of the movie for Buck to explain that there's a dinosaur named Orson who just escaped from exile. He's got raptors like trained and on his side. He wants to rule the lost world and no mammals will be safe ever again. There had to be a better way to get that across. The possums think they're fine because they don't know they're mammals. Buck immediately decides to take the possums home because he knows, 1, Crash and Eddie will die here. 2, no way Ellie is okay with them being on their own like this. No way she let that happen. 3, he doesn't want to deal with them either. So he's taking them home. The whole walk back to the big dino skull, he's talking about how he's the only one who can defeat Orson. So he needs to stay here and do his weird vigilante things he does. When they get to the exit, someone has placed a large boulder in front of it, completely blocking off the, I guess, single entrance and exit from the Lost World. I feel like there has to be more than one. But what do I know? I'm not a Dino Land expert. You know, I've never been. There are no good PNG files of the characters who are in just this movie. They don't exist. So here's Orson. I'll put up like the actual picture in color and good quality on the screen for you so you can really, get the full picture there. Orson sounds almost exactly to me like Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls. In a moment of madness, I did Google to make sure that he did not have the same voice actor as Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls. Alex Hirsch did not voice this dinosaur. If I'd thought about it for even a second longer, I would have come to that conclusion myself. But I was just so taken aback by the fact that dinosaur Bill Cipher was on my screen. He starts monologuing about how much he hates Buck. Babe, same. Orson is also bad to look at. Should be unsurprising at this point. Orson does have a big physical difference from the other dinosaurs, even the other dinosaurs of his species. He's got a big, gross exposed brain behind his frill. He's got a huge brain. And I guess his skull just didn't fit it, and it's kind of just out. I don't love that. We find out immediately in this scene that Orson was bullied as a child for his appearance, for his physical difference. Cool motive. You're still trying to kill possums with raptors. He goes on about how mammals infect the ecosystem. And the possums make a comment that dinos don't talk, which I'd love to actually just get into for a second. In Ice Age 3, it is established that the dinosaurs don't talk. They don't. We're in a whole Dino Land for a whole movie, and the dinos don't talk. And then, in Ice Age 5, Collision Course 2016, there is a trio of tertiary antagonists, there's too many characters in that movie, who are dinosaurs, who talk. One of them is literally voiced by Nick Offerman. They talk. They're talking the whole movie. They keep having scenes of them talking when other things should have been happening. They talk. Crash and Eddie were there. They heard those dinosaurs talk. And yes, those dinosaurs broke the rules. They broke the dinos don't talk rule. But you can't just pretend that the rule was never broken. You can't have Crash and Eddie be like, that's so weird that this dinosaur is talking. I've never seen that before. Yes, you have. Yes, you have. Did whatever scientist or alien that erased your brain, making you forget that you had a whole niece, did they also erase Gavin the dinosaur? And can they do it to me too? Not about Peaches, of course. Peaches is perfect. Anyway, Orson and Buck are just taunting each other for a while. Crash and Eddie play dead and fool no one. And then Buck saves them and they escape. And Orson yells, "No one outsmarts Orson." Buddy, you're Orson. You were just outsmarted. Maybe edit that a little bit. And then we see a close-up of a mammalian eye. And I really thought it was Buck. It wasn't, but the designs are so close that it was a really confusing shot. We find out who it was later. This is just a confusing shot that we get at this exact moment. It looks like Buck, it's not Buck. There's a dumb montage of the possums falling into Buck's lair, and they call it his bachelor pad. We love bachelor pads in this movie. I don't like it, but fine. And they decide they want to live here with Buck now. There is an hour left of this movie. To do what with? Buck complains about how he has to pay a cucumber for babysitting. Who's the cucumber babysitting? Well, Bronwyn from Ice Age 5 Closure Course 2016, Buck's child, who is a pumpkin that he found in a forest, who has never been a baby, has never resembled a baby, has never made a sound like a baby, but Buck decided was a baby. And I guess it's nice to see that he's really taking care of her. I was not prepared to see Bronwyn in this movie. I'm just glad he's a loving father, at least. You know? Gotta have at least one thing going for him. The possums want to help stop Orson. I don't know what their other choice is. They're trapped here. We cut back to the herd for literally, I swear to God, 30 seconds, where Sid asks if at this point they should just be looking for bones, implying the possums have already died, and Ellie looks worried. And then we go right back to Dino Land. What was the point? What was the point? We learned that even Buck can't tell the possums apart. Why even have two of them? If we are not going to try to distinguish them as their own characters in literally any way, why even have two of them? And maybe it's kind of like a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern situation where it almost says something about the other characters that they can't tell Crash and Eddie apart. And it's supposed to say something about the audience too, right? That we don't really care enough to want to be able to tell them apart, much like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in Shakespeare's Hamlet. But I don't think that's what it is, actually. I think they just wanted two possums but didn't want to make them any different possums. They just want to have two for more slapstick opportunities. And in fact, I can't connect this to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stafford, no matter how bad I want to. They're just two bad possums who exist. And that's fine. Buck explains that there was an established watering hole that all species were welcome to and was, in fact, established to encourage different species coexisting down here in the Lost World. Buck had a crew of, well, the whole movie, Crash and Eddie called them superheroes, and Buck has to be like, we weren't superheroes, but he has like a crew of like vigilantes that he offered a position to Orson, who turned it down. Orson just wanted power, just wanted ultimate power, and killed almost every member of Buck's crew. Almost every member. We'll get back to that in a minute. They then banished Orson to Lava Island, and not the nice one. So Buck seems to be surprised that isolation didn't cure Orson of his antisocial tendencies, which I think Buck and I should maybe have a chat about rehabilitation programs. We'll maybe talk about the carceral system of the Lost World, solitary, things like that. I think he could really benefit from thinking about those concepts a little bit deeper instead of just thinking, Orson, go into volcano. While on Lava Island, Orson trained the raptors by using fire, which fascinated them and makes them into little dogs who are easy to be trained. They love fire. Here's the thing about the raptors loving fire is they were on Lava Island. Lava Island. The whole island is surrounded by fire. How did that work? How did this work? I don't understand. Orson's raptors have found the possums and weasel, and there's a whole little sneak around stealthing bit that possums fuck up. Even Buck can't stand them at this point. I don't like Buck, but there's something very satisfying about seeing Buck really annoyed at the possums. Just being like, yeah, I know, right? I know. Buck's home that they're hiding in is suddenly filled with gas, but Crash and Eddie don't pass out because they're used to things that stink. Sure. And we are introduced to Z. I initially thought Z was just sexy lady weasel, that thing that like kids cartoons do where there's a single character, so they just create a like hyper femme version of that masculine character, and they're like, no, they're in love. She's her own species though. She's not a weasel. She is what's called a zorilla. They're kind of like skunks. This is not what Z looks like. I'll put up a picture of actual Z, but again, there are no good pictures of the characters in this movie, so here is some clip art of a zorilla. The possums call her a skunk with a secret identity. Little mean, feels mean. She is here to help stop Orson, and she's familiar with Buck's nonsense because she was the only surviving member of Buck's crew, other than Buck, obvs. Z is here to be the competent woman. All of the boys are silly, goofy, crazy, couldn't get anything done. So here comes the woman ready to shut down their fun and actually be the one who gets things done. Never seen that before. That's new. Orson catches up with his raptors who failed at their job. The raptors start imitating all of Orson's motions, which is kind of cute. He gets mad at them and then realizes he's going to need more raptors because the like 2 that he had just are not cutting it. So Z found the group because Z's been tracking Orson and Orson's been tracking Buck. So therefore Z found Buck. She was not actually looking for Buck. She actually doesn't like Buck at all. Okay. We then find out almost immediately that Orson is making a move on the watering hole. He's sending his raptors over there. He wants to shut it down. Z wants to make a plan for how to stop him. Buck refuses to make a plan and just leaves, just runs, and sends all the mammals into a panic, which, cool. And then about 1 million raptors show up, and Z has to step in and save Buck's ass because he's absolutely surrounded by chicken dinosaurs. Not a place I'd want to be. Orson comes in riding on a raptor, which looks so silly. It looks so silly. They have a big close-up shot where the raptor like steps on a flower, so you know he's evil. But then it zooms out to this very like round little dinosaur on top of these skinny little chicken guys, and it's just silly. And I don't think in a way that assists the visual. Team Mammal decides to get on Buck's bone boat that Z designed and Buck built. It was a little teamwork effort. They take a scenic little river ride towards the Lost Lagoon. While they're on this little scenic river ride, they have not explained why they're going to Lost Lagoon. By the way, we don't know. We just know that's where they're going. While they're on this little scenic ride to somewhere, Crash and Eddie start encouraging I feel statements. They're really getting into the I statements between Buck and Z, who immediately start having a little domestic. Basically, they're having a fight about how all their friends died and how they still can't get along. Buck's too spontaneous. Z's too stuck in making plans. It just doesn't work. Z says the line, "You were my best friend and I lost you too," which I feel like in anything else would have hit me kind of hard. But they're on a boat and I don't even know why. And they're so bad to look at and they look like they'd be sticky if I touched them. And we're 45 minutes into the movie. We're over halfway there. And we cut to Ellie looking at the sky. And I was like, good, some herd time. And then we cut right back to Crash and Eddie 5 seconds later. Just to show that they're looking at the same sky. Which I thought the Lost World was underground. But what do I know? I'm not a Dinoland expert. I've never been. Crash and Eddie decide they're going to prove themselves, prove their worth and their capabilities by driving the boat while Buck is asleep. Something he explicitly did not trust them to do while he was awake. So this is a good plan. But there's no big consequences for this. I really expected them to be fully in the wrong direction or something. No, Buck and Z wake up and the possums try to serve them poison berries for breakfast because they don't know that they're poison. And then they use poison snakes as jump ropes. And then they adopt really cute little fire-breathing lizards. So it's not so much that they were driving the boat, it's that they were left unsupervised. So we didn't have to make any big deal about them steering the boat. You could have just pointed out that they were like unsupervised, which we already knew. because of how Buck and Z were asleep. But that's fine. We're at the Lost Lagoon. We've made it. Why are we here? Because Mama T-Rex from the third Ice Age movie is here. Weird cameo. I was not expecting to see you here, ma'am. Again, a line that actually gave me some kind of positive reaction was the possum saying, our friend Sid used to babysit her kids. Cute. That's cute. She mimes that she's got a bad tooth, and Buck takes a long time to figure out which tooth is bad when one visibly has a hole all the way through it. Like, I think I found the problem. Can we kind of move this along? No, you don't see it? It's right there. It's right there. I felt like I was watching Dora the Explorer. Just like, it's this way. This way. And he couldn't hear me. Because he was a pre-rendered cartoon. Z uses her knockout gas to knock her out for surgery, and Buck takes out the bad tooth. Teamwork. Teamwork. And then raptors arrive on the island, and Mama T-Rex won't wake up because she got knocked out for her surgery. Until Buck ignites a smoke bomb in her mouth. Then she wakes up, but she is, like, drunk off amnesia, like she's high out of her mind. So while she's stumbling around everywhere, you get Orson, who's here, slow clapping, doing the whole, like, did you really think, yada, 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 whatever the fuck he's saying in his weird little Bill Cipher voice. Orson then calls himself king and describes himself as evil, which is one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to antagonists, but it's fine. There's a fight scene. It's happening, whatever. At some point, Buck and Z are backed into a corner, and they both admit that what happened was their own fault, and then that it was nobody's fault, and there's a, like, not you, not me, us, and then they work together. Whatever. Cute. Fine. Buck decides that he's going to give everyone else time to escape, so he breaks off to confront Orson, and he gets put in a little cage so that Orson can bring him to the watering hole and make an example out of him. Sure. I thought this was particularly funny because if this was any other movie with Buck in it, Buck would have used his weird reality-bending superpowers he's always had to get out of there. But he doesn't really have those in this movie. He's only ever functioned off of cartoon logic before. So it's really weird to see him in this movie where, like, suddenly physics matter to him. Like, buddy, just decide it'll be funnier if you break out and find a key, you know? Roger Rabbit. Z, Crash, and Eddie get back on the road to also go to the watering hole, and they keep passing a bunch of mammals who are hiding because they're worried about Orson beginning his genocide against them. There's a whole half hour left. There's a whole half hour left in the movie. I saw that there's a whole half hour left in the movie when I got to this point, and I can't explain the kind of the feelings that were hitting my brain. I was, like, resigned. I believed I was going to spend the rest of my life watching this movie. It had only been, like, 50 minutes, but I was ready. I was ready. Crash and Eddie start talking about how what happened to Buck was their fault, and the thing about that is they're right. They're literally right. In the moment, what happened to Buck was their fault, but Z has to kind of, like, pretend it wasn't. While they're over here accepting that Ellie was right and they should never have left, that this was stupid, they shouldn't have left home, Z scolds them for it. She scolds. This is their first real moment of self-reflection. They're finally getting somewhere. And she scolds them for it. She says that everything they need is inside them. They've already got what they need, and they say, in our spleens? Sure, babe. Whatever you need to hear. There's a training montage with Crash and Eddie and Z, and it's boring, and I'm bored. I'm bored. They're practicing playing dead. Move on. And then, like they'd heard my cries, we go back to the herd. Sid has fully given up on looking for the possums. Fully believes they're dead, would like to stop looking, until Diego, the one who's always pushing us through the plots in these movies, finds footprints and knows which way they went. The herd realizes, based on where the footprints are leading, that the possums went into Dino Land. And then Sid says, I thought I made bad choices. And then the scene's over. The herd scenes are so short. They're so short. I think we see them for maybe 8 to 10 minutes in this whole movie, in this whole Ice Age movie. Give them back to me. We go back to Crash and Eddie and Z. They get closer to the water hole. They're pretty much there. And raptors are approaching. And Crash and Eddie start talking about how the raptors are tiny, but it turns out they were just far away. That's so dumb. But thinking back on it, it's a good goof. It wasn't funny in the moment, but conceptually, it's not bad. And then, for some reason, we're back to the herd. Weird. The entrance to Dino Land is still blocked from Orson getting a big boulder pushed in front of it earlier. That has not been fixed yet. Sid, Manny, and Diego start pushing the boulder, and they're really struggling. There's a lot of effort being put in, but Ellie isn't helping. The other mammoth at the table is just watching the sloth push and huff and puff. Babe, come on. Like, did you want your brothers back or not, hon? They all fall into the Lost World and immediately run into Mama T-Rex, who, Sid used to babysit her kids. After talking to Mama T-Rex, Sid turns and relays, Crash and Eddie are in trouble, to which Diego replies, you say that like it's news. I've missed you. I've missed you. You don't sound like yourself, but I miss you. Back with Buck and Orson. Orson has decided he's going to lower the cage with Buck inside into a crowd of raptors, presumably so they can, rend him limb from limb and eat him, I guess? To which Buck says, I will not let my pumpkin daughter grow up without a father. Again, love that he's a loving father. I don't think he's currently paying the cucumber to babysit, though, so Bronwyn is just alone. Plot hole. Crash and Eddie burst into the scene and begin just, bothering the raptors by shooting them with spitballs. Cool. And then Z shows up and gasses them, the thing that actually works. And then Orson lights the cage that Buck is in on fire. But don't worry, here comes Mama T-Rex. She's on her way. There's a mammoth on each of her legs. How are you moving? You're so strong. You're so strong. I love you so much, Mama T-Rex. Buck's cage is on fire. Seems like he's not getting out of this one until here comes Z, bursting him out, getting him back to safety. Z says, you took a real chance giving yourself up like that. And Buck says, that's what you do in a herd. How fucking dare you? How fucking dare you? You dare stand where he stood. You take that line out of your mouth. I got so mad. I got so really mad when I'd been sitting through this terrible movie for a full hour. And they tried to, bait me with my nostalgia. With that's what you do in a herd. Are you fucking kidding me? They have not earned that's what you do in a herd. Put it back. That's what you do in a herd is what Diego said to Manny after he presumably actually died for Manny, who he had met 2 days prior, because Manny showed him kindness and the fact that love does not have to be transactional or cruel. Because that's what you do in a herd. Saving somebody you have a complicated but long and affectionate history for, that's, I guess, what you do in a herd. I guess that's what you do in a herd. Are you a herd? You're two possums who kind of don't like each other. Neither Buck or Z is a possum, and this is needlessly mean. But I was mad, okay? I'm still mad. Buck's never even been part of the herd. Where did he even get that from? Z is ready to accept spontaneity in her life and do the rest of this with no plan. I love that for you, darling. I wish maybe when we're trying to stop the genocide of all mammals in this world, maybe you could have a little bit of a plan. No? Okay. It's not that serious, so. The herd shows up just in time to watch Crash and Eddie do such a good job in the fight scene. The action, by the way, is so slow and weirdly paced. Normally in animation, fight scenes can get really like fast and crazy. You can get weird angles and you really mess with that like stretch. It's so slow and like awkward. Buck fights Orson. The herd fights raptors. Ellie says she's going for a little more possum, a little less mammoth, in an inversion of that kind of mean thing she said to Crash and Eddie earlier. That's cute, fine. Diego saves Sid, which I'm pretty sure he does at least once in every single movie, and he says to a raptor, back off, he's family. Cute. And then takes a pause and says, also, he's high in saturated fats. I love Diego. I can't help it. Sometimes I think I just feel like he's the only one written like a character. Does that make sense? Orson starts preaching survival of the smartest, which is him, of course, with his big exposed-ish brain. And while Orson is doing this whole speech, Crash and Eddie, who are now surrounded by raptors, come to the realization that the reason that Orson could control these raptors was because he could, like, make fire on command. He had, like, the tools for it. But Crash and Eddie still have those fire-breathing lizards that we saw for approximately 4 seconds in a scene 20 minutes ago. So they pull out the fire-breathing lizards. They make big fire to kind of entrance all the raptors, and then they play dead. And then the raptors, who are in, like, training mode, also play dead. Because they're just mimicking what Crash and Eddie do because of the mode of raptor they unlocked, I guess. So it seems like we've won. And Manny says, those are my boys. Are they, though? Orson gets kind of thrown around in a big shuffle and lands near some angry mammals. But before they can do anything, he gets chased by a bunch of raptors and just runs away. He's just a big coward all the way to the end, and he just leaves. Okay. Crash and Eddie are now riding on raptors. Good for them. And they reunite with the herd and, most importantly, with Ellie. Ellie looks at them and says, I'm the one who should be sorry. No, babe. No. You were right. You were right. This was a terrible idea. They snuck off. And you were right. Don't apologize for that. Manny says he's proud of them. Don't be. Like, it's not earned. I guess they helped. But mostly they spent the whole movie getting in the way. And also, this was a bad idea. Don't be like, we should have believed in you. No, you shouldn't have. The first thing that happened when they left home is they fell into Dino Land and got chased by a big spider. They almost died to a spider right after leaving. Are you proud of that? I'm not proud of that. Crash and Eddie finally, like, accept that Z's not a skunk. I've been leaving most of that out. They've been calling her a skunk the whole time, and it's been kind of weird. But they finally call her a Zorilla, which is the thing that she is, so. And Z says the possums have joined the superhero squad after spending all movie insisting that she's not a superhero. Again, I left that out because it bored me. They kept doing it. The possums decide that they want to stay here in the Lost World with Buck and with Z. Ellie asks if they're sure. She says that she'll be fine if they're gone. Ellie, darling, I don't think you're the one anyone's worried about. Buck makes a comment that they're stronger together than they are apart, like it's the moral of the story. Where? Who? When were we all together in this one? Do you mean just the possums? Because they're always together. Do you mean you and the possums? Because you've hated them this whole movie. Do you mean you and Z? Because you and Z, sure, but the possums are not involved, Mr. Wild. And then Buck makes some comment about how it's time for him to have a real family. So I see how much Bronwyn meant to you then. I understand. I understand. Also saying time to have a real family in a franchise where the entire thing is, like, found family and defining family for yourself it's just a weird phrase to put in there. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. That's not a big thing. Crash and Eddie have a big hug with Ellie and they promise they'll visit, especially when they need something. That's Not cute. A flower blooms and it transitions into that cave painting animation style from earlier. Ellie is back to narrating, and she informs us that this movie was about learning to accept change, and that the thing about a herd is you're a part of it even when you're apart. Is not the moral I got, but I believe Ellie. It's this nice little outro, right? There's nice little music. It's just Ellie. It's that cute cave painting style. She's telling us about the moral we were supposed to have picked up on that wasn't actually in the movie. And then all of a sudden it hard cuts to Buck's bachelor pad with like the possums are rapping. It's such a jarring shift. And then there's a montage of the Lost World crew. Oh, wait. There's a montage of the Lost World crew breaking a skeleton that Buck had just finished putting together and like doing other various shenanigans. There's no Bronwyn in this montage. Where is your pumpkin daughter? Where is she? And then after that, it goes to the regular credits with regular music. There are no after credits scenes, and it's over. Do you understand what I mean by this is a different kind of bad movie than Ice Age 5 Collision Course 2016? Ice Age 5 Collision Course 2016 is non-stop events. None of it makes any sense, but it is non-stop. There's always a different wild thing happening, one after another, after another, after another. This movie is boring. I was bored. Not only was it about literally my least favorite 3 characters in this entire franchise, they weren't even being exciting. They were being the lamest versions of themselves, their most expected forms. Buck's coolest thing he always had going for him is that he operated off of different physical logic than everyone else. And in this movie, he didn't even do that. And Crash and Eddie never had anything going for them, for me. I never thought they were funny. And that's like their one thing, is they're supposed to be funny. And they're not. I don't find them entertaining, which of course makes the movie where they're the focus not very entertaining. See, didn't add that much to this movie for me. I thought she was fine, but from the second she was introduced, I knew she was introduced exclusively to be a foil to Buck. It's in her character design, it's in her voice, it's in everything. Orson is the exact opposite of a compelling villain to me. Nothing about him was interesting, nothing about him mattered. He didn't even get a satisfying conclusion. We couldn't even get a defeating of the bad guy that felt like anything. He ran away on his own little legs. The few members of the herd that were actually in this movie were in it so little that they didn't have a chance to do anything. They were just there to be like, do you remember them? Do you remember them? Don't you like them? And I do. I do. I liked a lot of the scenes with them, but they were so short and had zero purpose. So I was just frustrated that you were showing them to me. And that's not to mention all of the characters who logically should have been here and weren't. I don't think we needed all these characters here. That would have felt wildly crowded in such a separate and kind of small story. We didn't need Shira and Peaches and Julian, but give me a reason they're not here. Come on. Just say they're on their honeymoon. It's not hard. And Shira's like, Shira and Brooke are having a girls' night or something. But Shira would hate having a girls' night with Brooke. She would not have a good time. Brooke would have a good time, though. And that's worth something. Ice Age 6, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild 2022, is defined as an action comedy movie, and almost none of the comedy landed for me, and the action was slow, poorly paced, not visually interesting, and generally felt like a waste of time. I think a 17% suits it just fine. It superficially tried to be connected to the core themes of Ice Age, the idea of family, making your own life, making your own kind of destiny and definition of who you are and what family is to you, but not in a way that felt good. The original trio was all leaving behind objectively bad situations. Manny had a real tragedy. Sid had a family that didn't care about him to the point of neglect. And Diego was coming from, we'll call it an abusive situation, because that's, I think, our closest kind of connecting point to it. They had to redefine family for themselves to have a family. They had to. What they had wasn't working, was gone, was something they needed to escape. But they deserved a good family. They were good people who forged that family for themselves. They healed. That was their story. That's the family they made. And then later we watched that family expand. We watched them meet Ellie and learn what it means to add to a family, how you can change yourself and your dynamics while keeping what you have and making it even better. We learned about that with Peaches and with Julian, where they were changing and leaving, but that's okay. All of that. Family. Changing family. What it means to be a family. What it means to be a herd, right? What it means to make something good for yourself when you weren't coming from something good. What were Crash and Eddie running away from? What did they have to escape to redefine their lives and their family? Their sister, who was too worried about them? Yeah, that's annoying. I don't think it was worth centering a whole movie around. Crash and Eddie needing to feel free from the rest of the herd's expectations and kind of belittlings of them would make an excellent side plot. An excellent side plot in a better movie. The main plot here, the stuff that Orson wants to do with the Lost World, nothing to do with any of that. He's just evil because people were mean to him. And obviously people shouldn't have been mean to him. Okay, just because he has a physical difference doesn't mean that they had to mock him for it. But what did happen is he, radicalized himself. Most of the time when that happens to human beings, it's because other people are radicalizing them, right? And I don't want to get into that right now. But he just decided he was too smart for them, and that meant he should be in charge and that he knew what was best. So he, from there, extrapolated to exterminating all non-dinosaur life from the Lost World. And I don't really know why. But see how that's so disconnected from Crash and Eddie's whole deal? It's so disconnected from Crash and Eddie's whole deal. And the connective tissue is Buck and Z and their history, which is explored a little bit, but it barely connects to Crash and Eddie, and it only connects to Orson in the sense that they have fought with him before. They're not friends. Why did Buck offer him a place in the crew? Was Orson ever going to be on Buck's good side? What does it say about Buck that somebody he offered a position to, he just turned and isolated him on a lava island? That's not good. You're not meant to think about this movie like this. I know you're not. But I want to in my brain. But it's so frustrating. Because you're not meant to. None of it makes any sense like that. You're just supposed to look at it and go, ha, possums making jokes about pee. That's so quirky. But I don't think it's funny. So what's the point? Basically, there is no point. There is no point. If you want to watch Ice Age 6, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild 2022, don't do that. Maybe watch Ice Age 5, Collision Course 2016, which again, I wouldn't do unless you are with friends and know what you're getting into and know you're going to watch a really bad movie. That one, I can now endorse as fun bad. This one, it's not fun bad. And if you decide to sit down and watch Ice Age 6, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, I need you to do something for me. As soon as it's over, once the weird rap song ends and the regular credits roll, turn it off and turn on Scrat Tales 2022, the last production ever made by Blue Sky Studios. I am serious. Yeah, this video is also about Scrat Tales. Scrat Tales is 6 shorts that are all about 4 minutes long. It is very easy to watch. And the theme music slaps. It's so fun. There is absolutely zero dialogue. It is all classic Scrat slapstick nonsense. It's the little grunts and sounds. No dialogue. fully just visuals. It's animated well. It's good to look at. It's visually interesting. The second short is called Lo-Fi Scrat Beats to Sleep/Chill To. Different parts of it utilize that cave painting animation chalky style that works really, really well for kind of animating Scrat's inner thinking. The entire plot of these shorts here is that Scrat learns to care about 2 things instead of just 1 thing. He cares about Nut, and he cares about a baby who he initially mistook for a nut. This baby is just known as Baby Scrat. Baby Scrat is so cute. I'm not going to get into the plot of all 6 itty-bitty little episodes of Scrat Tales. I don't need to. I will tell you that in episode 4, mirror versions of Scrat and Baby Scrat fight to the death for the nut, which is wild. Spoiler for how Scrat Tales ends. In the final one, they lose the nut, and Scrat has to learn to drop that thing that he's cared about his whole life in order to care for his child and find fulfillment in his life outside of that. And in the end, he's happy. He grows old and he dies with his son by his side, ready to move on. Scrat is a changed man exclusively by the power of family and of accepting change as it comes and learning to love and learning to define himself in a different way. And then we do find out that the baby stashed the nut, and then Scrat's soul kind of body horror pushes its way back into the body, and then there's some nice little body horror slapstick, and that's how it ends. But, you know. Ice Age to me has always really excelled at those visual gags and that kind of slapstick humor. Scrat was not their mascot for nothing. Blue Sky Studios loves Scrat, and I felt like I could feel it. Like, I could feel that they knew this was their last chance to do anything with him, and it was truly, like, love going into it. Scrat Tales feels like Ice Age. It feels like the weirdest parts of Ice Age for a lot of it, but it feels very much just like condensed Ice Age energy. And I didn't even realize how much I was missing that kind of energy from Ice Age 6, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild 2022, until I started watching Scrat Tales and I realized, oh, it's the fun. I had fun watching Scrat Tales. They didn't have to say a single word. It was all in the visuals, all in the storytelling, in the vibes, in the music, these simple little plot lines. They were fun. How hard would it have been to make the movie fun? Scrat Tales is super cute. It's great. It's fun to look at. Minor criticism, I didn't need to see Scrat taking a stream of piss directly into the eye. So, you know, something to work on. But after sitting through a movie that had absolutely zero Scrat and visibly zero input from the production company that founded the whole concept of Ice Age, it felt so good to watch Scrat Tales. So if you've got half an hour and don't mind watching something that was definitely made with families and children in mind, check it out. It's just a good, mindless little bit of fun. And they even kept Scrat's original voice actor. How hard was that? Thank you so much for watching this very long video about a movie that I said I'd never make a video about. I know it's been a long time since I posted, but I have officially graduated from college with my master's degree. So I have a little bit more free time now than I did before. I have a few more things in the tank that I'd really like to make videos about. I still really want to talk about Shrek, and I'm conceptualizing a video about Inception, which I always said I love too much to make content about, but you all might get to see me talk a lot about one of my favorite things very soon. So thank you so much for supporting this channel. Like I said at the beginning, I've recently hit 2,000 subscribers and am now able to monetize this channel. Obviously not making a lot of money from it or anything, but it's really incredible to me that I even have that chance. I'm from TikTok. They don't really pay us over there. But if you'd like to follow me other places, you can follow me on TikTok. I'm at Whipjack, W-H-I-P Jack. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Whipped Jack, W-H-I-P-P-E-D Jack. You can always hear a lot about the production behind these videos on Twitter. I never shut up. And if you want to listen to some good short form D&D content, you can listen to me DM and play over at Unprepared Casters anywhere you get your podcast. I will, of course, see you next time, whenever next time is. Thank you so much. What do I do with these now? Do I have to display them in my home? How would I explain that to guests?